How we doing? How we doing? This is Destination Denver, Colorado, and today, put plainly, does Denver really deserve all the hate? We're here to talk about it. We're starting right now. All right, this is Destination Denver, Colorado. I'm your host, Jimmy Everett. If you're interested in learning all the ins and outs, pros and cons to moving to or around Denver or the Front Range, this is a channel for you. So make sure you click that subscribe button as I drop new videos for you each and every week. And listen, as much as I try to be a creative here on camera, I'm also a licensed mortgage broker covering the entire state of Colorado, and I have some of the best realtors in the game helping me do it. We're helping people move here each and every day. So the number and email you see on your screen, know that I'm always the person to answer your phone calls, answer your texts, answer your emails. There, win in if you need me. Now that we're done with that fun-filled stuff, let's get to what we're here for, and that is, does Denver truly deserve all this hate? All right, so if you're clicking on this video, you might be wondering, what the heck is he talking about? Why does Denver deserve the hate? Does it deserve the hate? Well, a few weeks ago, I created a video called People Are Over and Leaving Denver. And this was really talking about people who had lived in the Denver metro area for a while and had just decided that it's not for them anymore. Now, this was not to state that there is some type of mass exodus from Denver. That's not happening. Although there are stats that will say that Denver County population has shrunk over the last couple years. Overall, Colorado is still a growing state. And listen, I know we cannot talk about Denver, we can't talk about cities changing, we can't talk about hate, we can't talk about any of these things without talking about politics, but I'm not starting with that. I'm going to save that till last. So you can just skip ahead to the very end of this video if that's all you're here for, and then you can leave your comment telling me, I don't know, whichever side of things, because apparently we're either here or we're there. But otherwise, let's dive in. The main key here is getting rid of some of these facts versus fictions moments. There's a lot of myths and rumors about Denver, and there are reasons to think that the city is moving in a bad direction, but there's also some reasons to think that it's moving in the right direction, and also it remains an extremely popular place for people moving and for people who want to continue living here. So let's dive into some of these thoughts and whether they are real or just complete and utter BS. The first and probably the most talked about in Denver is that Denver in the metro area is overcrowded. Sure, there is some truth to this. From 2010 to 2020, we saw a ton of people move to Colorado and certainly move around the Denver metro area. That just got added on in a hurry as we got into the late 2010s and as we moved into the pandemic. Now you're going to see that from 2020 to 2023, Denver County shrunk a little bit by about 1.5%. Now, some of that can be explained by the pandemic. Things start shutting down. People don't want to live downtown. They don't want to live in the county of Denver. They start moving out to the suburbs. There's also this misnomer, and it's been hilarious to me because I've heard it since I was a little kid growing up in Denver, growing up in Lakewood, just outside of Denver. Yes, I am a native. I don't have my bumper sticker. But, people talk about, oh, California ruined Colorado. So many Californians. And listen, roughly 1 in 10 people who have moved to Colorado from out of state or moved to Denver from out of state are from California. You might think that's a lot, but California also has a ton of people. So 9% isn't exactly mind-blowing. The other thing I would take into consideration is that states like Texas, Florida, Arizona, they send a ton of people as well. Combine those three and they more than overcome how many people move here from California. But the fact is, again, Denver's a popular city, saw a lot of growth. That overcrowding aspect, it's undeniable. The Denver metro area grew, Colorado grew, that is stressing folks out. The direction of blame it gets might not be the most accurate thing. Next most obvious, is Denver really that expensive? And again, we could talk about how expensive Denver has become. For people who have lived here for a long period of time, there are a lot of folks who say Denver used to be affordable, used to be able to rent, used to be able to buy, used to be able to just enjoy. And as Denver has become a more popular city and as more people have moved here, that affordability has slid. Housing, as an example, in 2023, the average home in Denver was around $650,000. The average nationally at that time was about $430,000. I remember moving back to Denver in 2008 from New York City and telling myself part of the reason I'm doing this is because I don't want to spend $500,000 on a home. And now here we are 15 years later and the average home is, over $650,000. So that affordability is challenging for a lot of natives. Now again, and natives aren't going to like hearing this, It's also very affordable, or at least affordable, for a lot of people who are moving here from other areas. And no, not just California. When you look at people coming here from Seattle, Washington, D.C., New York, areas of Miami, areas of Texas, there are areas that people live in where they look at Denver and they say, okay, it's affordable. So I think that is both fact and myth at the same time, because affordability is perspective. Depending on how much money you make, depends on how much you can pay to live somewhere. And that doesn't just go for people buying a house. I mean, rent prices in Denver, it's pretty routine to see places at around $2,000. But you also look at, when people talk about the affordability of Denver, when you look at other areas of the country, you have to compare how much you're going to pay for housing to how much you're going to make for income. And overall, the general incomes in Denver are higher than where you'll see on the national average. Am I saying it keeps up with housing? No, we really don't see that anywhere in the nation where income is catching up with housing anywhere, and Denver's no exception. But housing is more expensive in Denver, and incomes are typically higher than most areas of the country. The next couple topics tend to bleed together. Is crime high in Denver? What's the homeless situation in Denver? And again, we could talk about fact and we could talk about fiction. Crime in Denver got out of control for a while there and still has problems. And it has problems like you would find in large metropolitan cities. So when people say that Denver used to be a quiet cow town, that's true. There used to be not so many people living here. And I always joke about the fact that you could leave Denver and you could literally see horses and cows within a 10-minute drive of Denver. As the city has grown, more people come. Not all of them are good. And so some of them are committing crime. We saw an increase in violent crimes. We saw an increase in car thefts. We were number one in the nation in car theft at one point. Our homeless situation from 2020 to 2023, especially again during the pandemic, skyrocketed, increased by 31% during that period of time. A lot of these things interrelated. I think what people are missing, and I'm not saying it's fixed, and I'm not saying that the politicians of Denver have all of the answers. They don't have many answers for that matter. But what we are seeing is that Denver kind of hit its peak in those areas, and that the numbers, crime and homeless, is improving. Again, is it fixed? Hell no, it's not fixed. Is there a lot of work to be done? Hell yes, there is. But we are not at the worst. And why do I think that is important? Because a lot of growing cities go through that, where, again, their crime, their homeless, the affordability, all of these things get worse as a city grows. What we've seen is a leveling, and we've seen the city start to make adjustments for it. So we get a lot of hate for it, but I think the worst days as far as those topics are behind us. Couple other things that tie together. Does the Denver Metro, and we're really talking about Colorado, but do we have a wildfire issue? And that's a question that I get from a lot of people here that will call. What is the situation with wildfires in Colorado? And I'm making this video as Los Angeles is having the problems they are having, which it was certainly not going to make light of. Colorado has had some pretty nasty wildfires. It's very dry here. There are plenty of summers in which, for those of you who really enjoy camping, you're going to be told you can't light a campfire when you're up in the mountains, and that kind of stinks. It's not camping if you can't have a fire. Now, will that really impact the Denver metro area? No, not really. You're talking about more really getting into the Front Range, getting into some of those mountain towns where that becomes a risk. Now, it does play a factor in our air quality. And again, a funny thing, when I made that video a few weeks ago, a lot of people said, listen, the air quality in Denver has been bad for a long time. And that's not wrong. There's a history of poor air quality in the 70s, 80s, getting into the 90s. I think currently our air, really around the pandemic was trending poor. And you'll see it. If there is I've said it in other videos, if there's a large fire, especially in Canada, kind of the northwest part of the country, we tend to get a lot of that smoke in. Overall, Denver, as a lot of people commented on that last video, Denver's done a lot of work towards air quality. Hopefully they find some answers in the future. Do I think it's the end-all be-all problem? No, it is certainly something that people notice, and we hope that we are trending in the right direction on. A couple of my absolute favorites that I get asked. Is Denver just like a tech city, just a tech bro city filled with like young professional dudes who are out Peter Panning their life out? there was a period of time where Denver was known as Menver. We'd hear that all the time. And that was probably back in my dating days, and my wife would not like me talking about dating days, so we'll just skip ahead in this. No, but in general, Denver has a pretty wide, diverse community at this point. So some of the rumors that Denver was just, again, a bunch of like young professional tech